Looks like we have a forum. So we're gonna get started and open this meeting.
Recording in progress.
Thank you for letting me be late for a few minutes. I'm Randall Meyer. I represent Arkansas Cattlemen. I'm in Chico County, and we'll go around the room. Starting here with Scott. Actually, we'll start with that.
Sammy Angel, Chico County. Nathan Reed from Lee County. I'm representing the farmer at large position.
George Ducklin, Arkansas County, west side.
Yeah, Travis Center, Mississippi County, representing farmers at large.
Nathan Slayton, University of Arkansas Division of Agriculture.
John Beerbaum, Ashley County, representing forestry.
Matt Miles, Desha County, representing farmers.
Robert Thorne, Crittenden County, representing nursery and plants.
Sam Stuckey, Crittenden County, representing cotton.
David Gamble, farmer, Mississippi County, representing corn, wheat, and feed grains.
Caleb Wolf, Cricket County, Ross Groves.
Bruce Alford, Lafayette County, representing forward.
Kyle Walsh from Randolph County, representing the fertilizer.
Scott Bray, Arkansas Department of Ag, Plant Board Director.
Linda Alford of Pitt County, Bishop.
Max Slavany with Max Drone Surgeons representing drone community.
Alan Reeves, the Reeves Ag Service, drug community also.
David Ford, Arkansas Department of Agriculture, Division Director over the field staff.
Mr. Daniels, Black Bear Program Coordinator, Arkansas Game and Fish.
Jonathan Marty, Federal Hawk Program Coordinator, Arkansas Game and Fish.
Heath Griggs, Arkansas Crop Consultant Association.
Regina Coleman, Arkansas Bilingual Eradication Foundation. Brenda Carroll, Arkansas Restoration.
Next on Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Standards.
Sherry Seinfeld, Department of Agriculture.
Overseas Department of Agriculture.
Brittany States, University of Arkansas Department of Agriculture. Lee Gibson, Arkansas Department of Agriculture. Susie Nichols, Arkansas Department of Agriculture, Pesticide Section.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Mr. Chairman, you
Yeah.
have two board members online.
Okay, if you would introduce yourself. Online.
Ken Korth, representing University of Arkansas Division of Agriculture.
David Wallace, Crittenden County, representing seed dealers.
I'm Eric Palmer, Technical Product Lead for Soybean Herbicides, representing Syngenta.
Yeah.
I'm George Sabag with Bayer Crop Science.
Anyone else online?
Should be all the health members online.
Gary Enan, representing BASF.
Thank y'all. I think y'all probably been here a little bit longer than me and had a chance to look over the December 10th meeting minutes. Anyone have any? Yes,
Motion approved, protocol.
you got a motion to approve minutes?
Second.
Have a second? All in favor of approving the minutes of December 10th, say aye. Any opposed? Very good, they're approved. If we have this in here, do we have something on the expense reimbursement? Scott, sorry, do we have something to do on the expense reimbursement, or does it need to offer?
Authorize them. This is for the upcoming year, so whenever you all travel and we reimburse you for mileage, we don't have to come back to have a board meeting every single time.
Very good.
We need a motion.
All these, so it's-
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor of authorizing those expense reimbursements for 2025, say aye. Any opposed? Okay. Scott, I believe you have some information for us on the final approval of the rule changes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what we have on the agenda for you all are two separate rules. One is associated with the pest control group and the other with the pesticide group. You all saw these rules back several months ago when we initiated rulemaking, and it was basically to bring our program rule in alignment with our certification and training plan that we have with EPA. It was nothing controversial. It was more or less specifically outlining some record keeping requirements, which everybody has been doing by either by label requirements or our own rule requirements or a combination of both. So you all approved that, and those two rules have worked their way through the long rulemaking process, and Corey's here to kind of help us with that. But they've circled back to you at the end of the process. So we went through public hearing, we got no comments, or excuse me, we went through public comment period and we got no comments. So basically, all you need to do today is put final approval on these rules. And then they will go forward for a final legislative review / approval. And then they'll go to the ALC, and then to the
PLR Secretary of State, 10 days later, they're effective.
gotcha. So I do have one issue though with the pesticide rule. So looking at it yesterday, we saw a little bit of language associated with training technicians that we would like to clear up. What that means is pulling it back and potentially starting it over. But you're going to hear in the pesticide committee meeting a discussion on a pesticide registration and on the licensing of drone use. And during that discussion, you may want to initiate rulemaking to address both of those issues. So my suggestion is we hold off on the pesticide rule. Here's the pesticide committee report. And if y'all agree and you want to initiate rulemaking on those other two subjects, then we just pull this back and basically initiate all of it at once, run it back through all together. And I think that'll be a little easier for the applicator community. Instead of getting this rule and then a few months later getting another one, they'll just get one rule. We kind of educate them up on one instead of two. So if y'all agree to that, then I would ask you to consider final approval on the pest control rule change.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to consider and approving or to approve the pest control rule change. I want to make sure we're talking about this one right here. Correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So in your handout, it's going to be the one that has blue writing. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving these rule changes to the pesticide control law Act 488 of 1975. Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll circle back. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Holding off or pulling back on the approval of the other to add the changes, what kind of timeline do you see it following?
It typically runs a 2 or 3 or 4 month timeline. It just depends on how it all flows and plays out. There's no sense of urgency with these changes. We're primarily already doing what these changes require with the record keeping requirements. EPA just insisted basically that we reword these rules to align with that plan, and I think it's a good idea, but there's no sense of urgency, so I don't see an issue with starting it back over. Very good. Y'all are okay with it?
I've got a question.
Yes.
Will it delay any of the conversation about the drones that we're gonna do?
No, no. In fact, if y'all decide to go forward with the drone recommendation or the rulemaking with the drone, it'll all just be one draft. Will be included in this draft.
Yeah.
Rework.
So if we all hold off on discussion on this, when we get past our pesticide or into our pesticide committee, we'll talk about specifically what problems you have.
We can, yeah, if y'all want to, and basically, I can tell you right now, there's a section in there associated with technician training. And some of the language in there got inserted from a different part of the rule, and I missed it. I apologize to have gone this far without getting cleaned up. But it's an easy cleanup. I think it's more than just a minor adjustment. If we want a minor adjustment, we can make that adjustment today and keep this rule in motion, but it's probably more I probably won't qualify for that. It's going to mean a reset. So I think we need to just reset it.
We'll just hold off on finishing this until we get through our pesticide
And
committee.
like I said, if y'all agree to go forward with some rulemaking on these other two subjects, then that'll make it easy, because we'll just draft it, includes all of it. going forward.
Very good.
And if you don't mind, I'm gonna stay up here because the next,
Yeah, legislation.
no, the next item.
Okay.
City council.
That's fine.
So there exists the Arkansas City Council. Some of you are probably familiar with it. Some of you may not be. If I'm being honest, I'm not super familiar with it. It hasn't met in a while. But it is basically an advisory council, applying to Foundation Seed and the U of A. And we've discovered that two members of this council are elected by this board. And the two members that are on it are not on the board anymore. So we need y'all to elect two members to go back on this council. There may be an upcoming need for the U of A to call a meeting, and so we'd like to get that taken care of today. My recommendation is there are two members of this board that are associated with the seed business, and that's Mr. Sammy Angel and Mr. David Wallace Jr. And if both of you all are willing, I would recommend that be the two that get elected to the city council.
Okay, we'll open nominations for those two people, or whoever we're gonna talk
I'll
about.
make the nomination for those
That
two
that would
members.
like to vote.
It's easy for David because he's not here.
He's online.
Well, mute him.
Are there any nominations?
Well, I nominate those two.
Okay.
I'll
You don't have to
I'll
second.
second.
Any other nominations? Seeing as there are no other nominations, by acclamation, those two people have been selected to serve on the seed council, if they will accept. Mr. Angel,
We will do.
Mr. Wallace online, will you accept being on the seed council as a representative of the Arkansas State Plant Board?
I do accept, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Thank you. Dr. Korth, are you able to give your pest control report for us, please?
I am, thank you. So the Pest Control Committee did not meet this quarter. And the only pest control program business before us today are the exam results. You should have those in your that came with the agenda. So at this time, I would just like to ask for a motion to accept the pest control examination results for the month of December 2024 through January 2025.
So moved. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the pest control exam results, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Very good. They all approve. Dr. Ford, anything else?
Nope, that completes our report. Thanks.
Very good, thank you. All right, Mr. Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our committee met last Monday on March 10th here in this room. The committee discussed a request made by a fellow board member and committee member Garrett Falls. Is Garrett here today? Is it Garrett online?
He's on his honeymoon for a month. He's
Well,
out of the
that's
country.
pretty good. That's pretty good. Excuse that. And Garrett had requested to add an unmanned drone category. Susie, our requested that the committee allow her to look into what other states have implemented regarding drones, along with adding an unmanned drone subcategory to the Arkansas existing aerial category. This would include working with the associate professor, pesticide assessment specialist, Please Bradley, and also Dr. Jason Davis, who's assistant division of agriculture. He is the specialist over this and develop training and testing materials for an unmanned drone category with the target implementation being 2026. Our committee voted to allow Ms. Nichols to compile this information and develop an unmanned drone category and report back to the committee at a later date. The committee discuss the informational document developed by Ms. Nichols regarding drones, and Ms. Nichols is in the process of updating that document and should be available within the next week for what's going on for this year. Also, just I asked, Susie, how many drones are licensed right now? And she was gonna get that information, of course, today. Do you
Can
have
I give
that?
it to you right now?
Sure.
Currently, we have 11 firms that are licensed as aerial firms, and they have 15 drones licensed. We have 2 firms that are pending with 11 drones associated with those. Pending means we've sent the invoice out. We're waiting on payment, or it's about to go out. And then we have 4 firms on hold that have 5 drones associated with them. Hold means we're missing information on the application. It could be the form's not complete, insurance is not updated, power of attorney, and we typically notify them quickly when we notice something is missing. That's as of today, these numbers change daily as applications come in.
Appreciate that, Susie. We anticipate this. I think everybody does. We realize this is a growing field and we need to get our arms around this as soon as we can. So Susie's going to report back to us at a later date. The next part of our meeting, Susie provided a summary of Arkansas history with the product registration for feral hog bait called Kaput. Susie explained that in 2018, the manufacturer did apply for registration and state withdrew the request due to concerns regarding exposure of non-target animals. Feral hog task force was formed after that to evaluate the food and make recommendations. During our committee meeting, presentations were made. Mr. Richard Crochet of Skin Strategies Corporation, Dr. John Tomachek, Representative Texas A&M AgriLife, and Mr. Ryan Farney, who represents the Arkansas Feral Hog Eradication Task Force. Mr. Farney made the following recommendations to us on behalf of the Feral Hog Eradication Task Force: that Kaput be, number one, Kaput be registered as a registered use pesticide requiring a license for purchase and use. Number two, restrict the use to counties with no recorded black bear harvest since 2003. And the last recommendation was limit the use to specific timeframes when black bears are denning. I think, do we have somebody on the line, Susie, that can help answer questions?
Mr. Crochet, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering your names again, Dr. Tomachek, and I think Mr. Farney are available online if the board has any questions. Mr. Farney's in the room, I apologize. If y'all have any questions on his recommendations, he is in the room.
And Spencer Daniels, our bear program coordinator, is here as well, if anybody has any black bear related questions.
Any comments you have?
In regards to black bears?
Yeah, just the black bear with the chemical Kaput and concerns.
Can we have you come up here and speak?
Yeah,
It's better for recording,
Thank you, sir.
sorry, to be on the spot.
We spent, oh gosh, we met for an hour and a half. We probably spent over half our meeting talking about this, more.
So I'm Spencer Daniels, I'm the new black bear program coordinator with Arkansas Game and Fish. I haven't spent a whole lot of time looking into Kaput, but I just got here 3 or 4 weeks ago, but I've looked at some studies for Texas A&M and everything I've read says it's recommended not to use where black bears are present. So, and black bears hone in on host resources and especially baiting sites, so putting something out on the landscape that could potentially harm black bears might be a problem for them. If we didn't use it where hunting doesn't occur or where hunting occurs, that would probably be helpful. But Arkansas having a population of 6,000 plus black bears, you could see some secondary exposure there for sure. So my recommendation, if it is proved, would not be using anywhere where hunting occurs for sure. And then keep a close track of it, only if it's affected by our population.
So the bears is the main concern.
Right, and when they get on the bait side, they hit it pretty hard, and especially sows with cubs, when they're coming out of their dens, they're looking for resources to stock back up. They're feeding their cubs, so it probably had an effect on cubs.
Did A&M verify that it is harmful for bears or just didn't test of the bears? Or do you remember, Mr. George? I never got a clear, idea if it's even harmful for bears. I just
Yeah.
don't think they tested.
Yeah, Matt, I kind of came with the same feeling from that as well. Do we have somebody
Yes,
on? Is not,
Thomas Shake, he's not on.
He's
Is-
not.
is that-
but I agree with you, Matt. I don't think they.
O'Shea.
Oh, well, let's turn it over.
Richard, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Answer that, yeah, answer that question.
And we have not done any testing on black bear. Um, Dr. Tomachek was given some information. The closest data that are available have to do with related to dogs, dog toxicity. And in a meeting we had with well, I think it was on the 7th with not the plant board, but the pesticide board. We had recommended that if the product were used and approved in Arkansas, it would only be during the hibernation period and in those counties where no black bear have been harvested. And over the next few years, we'd actively be engaged in developing a feeder or delivery system that would ensure that the bears couldn't get into it. And then we could readdress the issue then when we feel we have a safe, secure feeding system.
If I remember right, it was a feeding system. There was a box that only they could get into. I mean, the hogs could get into it. That was concerned. Didn't allow the other animals.
Well, and the reason for my question is the majority, I don't know the majority, but their hogs wreak havoc on us in the southeast corner of the state, which is have a bear population. That is probably one of our biggest pests in today's world is the hog, the feral hog. And I know we're trying to do something about it through the eradication program, but if we could get this tested, if it didn't hurt a bear, I don't think it hurt any other animals that they.
No, it had nothing.
If there was some way to further their testing on, it would be extremely beneficial to us in our part of the state.
What, did y'all discuss how good of a job this stuff does?
I wish that everyone could have listened to
Yeah.
that program that's on the board because it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
We're like you, the hogs, it's terrible. So every acre we got up.
Yes, sir.
We feed cattle in a lot of different spots, so it's extremely hard to trap a hog. Why go in the trap? They can go anywhere and get feed.
Right.
And it's no telling what it costs in a year's time.
Well, they have a whole program how this works with the bait and the way that the animal gets the bait. It was a very impressive program that they put out.
It surely was. I listened in, I'm not on that committee, but I listened in. I was really glad I did. They stake those traps down with T-posts, so they're secure, and then they have a lid, I believe that was 17 pounds, so a raccoon can't get in it. And then they trained the hogs with the bait over a few weeks, and then it seemed as long as didn't scare the hogs off with a gunshot or let it run out of food, it looked like a full-time job to keep up with whoever's doing it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Looking at it every day.
You gotta keep the feed.
Cameras and the bait supply. And it did show how it reduced the numbers. I mean, really down to nothing.
Yeah, dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
You had a comment, sir?
Yes, I would just like for everybody to consider this is that,
Hey, Ryan, sorry, can you stand up? Just, it's easier to hear. If you're talking about beer.
I just want to consider the idea that, the toxic warfarin bait does kill pigs. There's no doubt about it. It will most certainly kill a bear if it eats enough of it. And I think nobody wants to, on the task force, to reduce the effectiveness of our move to kill pigs on the landscape. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, if we expedite this process and we start killing bears on the landscape, the public outcry is going to be great. And I think it could jeopardize future toxicant opportunities, whether it be with this company or with others. This is not the only company on the landscape that is trying to produce a toxicant. And if bears start showing up with blue tissue or cubs start showing up with blue tissue, it could produce a really negative result that nobody wants to see. And so I think that I mean, Mr. Crochet's just said that he's going to attempt to work on a delivery mechanism that will keep a bear out. Currently, the mechanism simply won't do it. If you put the mechanism in a place, bears exist and they want that bait, they will get it. And so I think that we just need to display an abundance of caution here, to make sure that we don't produce a result that's going to be counterproductive to the eradication of hogs on the landscape. So
Well, what would you suggest on the hog?
I would suggest that we move forward with the recommendations that the task force presented, and that we try to continue to develop a mechanism that will restrict bears on the land from getting the bait. I think that's the best option that we have at this time.
I'd like to make another comment. He was talking about the blue tissue. They have a dye in there that when the hogs eat that bait or the put, that within a short period of time, their fatty tissue turns blue, so it's easy to tell that they've consumed the product.
So what, I guess, so I'm in Lee County and I've seen one bear in my life, hundreds of game cameras, they just simply don't exist in that area, especially on our farm. I mean, is there any way to do a trial program in these counties? And we're talking about, if it's not harvested, if the bear hadn't been the bear hunting counties, you can't put it out anyway, but identify some counties that, I mean, we have millions of dollars in damage just in our county. And I have fields I can't plant corn on because of the hog population. Is there any way to do this where we about guarantee that the bears won't be exposed to it in certain areas?
Well, the only way is to limit it to the,
Yes.
when they're denning.
Yes.
That's the only way you guarantee it.
Well, how do you supposed to know whether you have black bears or not? I've never seen one. So how do you know that?
Sure. Would you mind if I want to make sure everybody is understanding fully?
What we're talking
talking
about.
about.
That's fine, go ahead.
So currently, this product is not federally registered as a restricted use product. Meaning if it gets registered in Arkansas, it's what we call a general use product. And Susie, jump in here if you need to. Which means you really don't have to have a license to put it out.
Right.
So what Terrell Hall Task Force is recommending is that we register it in Arkansas as a restricted use pesticide. And we include these restrictions that they recommended. And the one associated with black bears is basically restrict no use in any county that has a recorded black bear harvest since 2023. So what the game and fish records would determine which counties would be off limit based on black bear harvest records, correct?
That is correct.
And if you're limiting, and it also would limit it to the time that they are.
Correct.
And so what are those timeframes for most bears in Arkansas?
Picked in from December to basically through the end of March.
Would that be for the whole state, even if there's no bears?
I'm going to refer back to you guys. I assume you're still.
We understand that Spencer can chime in, but we understand that there are most likely bears in those counties where no harvest has been recorded since 2023, but we can't confirm how many or where exactly those bears are. Can we?
Not exactly. That's gonna be part of what I'm doing moving forward, but we definitely have a growing population.
To help to make this more clean and easy, that's why we went with that recommendation. And so we completely would be open to the idea of relaxing those if we could develop something that we could show and demonstrate would keep a bear out. But currently, we don't believe that that's possible, and that's why we recommended these.
So how many counties are eligible that have a hog problem?
I think it would be 26 or 27 counties will be eligible right now to be able to use this bait.
In the off season.
In any time,
And so,
Well,
at any time the label allows.
okay, yeah, so let's be clear, so. Their recommendation would be to consider it a restricted use pesticide, which requires licensing to use. Restrict it to no use, period, in counties where black bears have been harvested since 2023.
right,
And restrict it in statewide during the denning months of December through March.
Do y'all have a list of these counties?
I believe Ryan might have those counties.
I don't have them off the top of my head, but I could very easily get those for you. It's, though, that information is also on the Game and Fish website.
Well, it's hard for me to vote and not know. Cause that's how, I could tell you a story about hogs that turn your hair up. And I know it doesn't make y'all any difference, but they're serious.
I 100% agree.
Dr. Slayton,
Yeah, I just wanted to, and I think Scott touched on this, but I just want it to be crystal clear. Those last two items, no recorded black bear harvest since 2023, and the third one about the time frame when black bears are denning, those go together. So they both apply, right?
Yes,
It's not an or, it's an and.
that's the recommendation from the task.
oh, then it's an and, not an or. I'm understanding
Either
from your
one or the
description, it's an or, not an and.
Considering
It's in there, though.
Okay.
It's pretty restricted. So essentially, it could be used in 26 counties from December to March.
That's right.
Basically, yes.
That's the restriction.
It is federally registered. Again, so you can jump in if you need to. There's a couple other states that have registered it. Texas and Oklahoma, and they both put their own state specific restrictions on it as well. I think they have registered it as a restricted use pesticide in their states. Brandy shaking her head, she knows
Similar term, yeah.
very similar to what we're doing.
Is this the same? Now, I remember this from a few years ago because it died the fat blue and there was a problem. They sort of, I don't want to say pulled it off the market, but backed off on its use. But LSU was looking at a product that maybe had some fish in it. Is this that same product or is that a competing product?
This is a different product.
Different product.
It's
And
a
that's,
completely different product, and that's what I was alluding to earlier when I was talking about other entities that are working on toxicants. We don't want to do something here and jeopardize the possibility of using a product like that in the future. That's what I was.
Yes, ma'am.
So what you're saying is if we got this product and it did harm the bears, then we might not have a chance to get a better product that's coming in the future. Yeah, you don't want to lose public. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Right, and I understand completely what he's getting at. So once the public turns sour on that, it'd be hard to get it back.
Well, and the hogs are, like you said, are devastating. I mean, I planted corn 5 times in the same field last year because of hogs. We just can't get rid of them. So all the farmers that are having damage are like right on the edge of their seat, looking for something that will make a difference. And this product during the program looked like it would, but there's always a side effect to everything that we try to do. So I don't know when we go there. It's kind of like our county. I know there's black bears in Desha County, but 99% of them are across the levee on the Mississippi River, I would assume, not many of them. So we're gonna get kicked out of it where north side of Desha County or the west side, is not gonna have the bear population that they would on right against the the Mississippi River.
Can you repeat what the current position?
Have you seen any?
What the current state position is on the use of?
It's not red.
It's not registered.
No, that's
So you cannot.
Thank you.
Okay.
So it's closing registration, Mr. Colshay, who, and I know I'm mispronouncing his name, he's actually the registrar. He's one of the manufacturers.
and I'm gonna chime in, and if y'all decide to move forward with this, we're talking about to put specifically today. I would recommend if we start developing drafts, we go with more of an bait category. So as things come onto market, they would be covered in this. And I'm gonna go back to my dicamba rulemaking, and Josh, you may have to correct me on the rulemaking. Typically what we do, if y'all decide to move forward with this today, we would go back, myself, Scott, and I'd get with our attorneys, we'd start drafting up some rules, and I'd go back to the pesticide committee and start weeding out some of these things with counties. And in the past, we may have multiple drafts, we would narrow down and then finally come back to the board, and then the rulemaking process,
Right.
governor, legislature approval.
So essentially, if y'all want us to go forward, we will hammer this out between now and June in the committee, pesticide committee, however many meetings it takes. Game and Fish, all parties involved will be heard and have input. And then we'll try to come back to this board in June if that's what y'all want, with a draft for y'all to look at.
Dr. Poche,
Yes,
you've heard this, know that you met with the pesticide committee at their meeting. Is there anything that, in hearing our discussion, you would like to say?
yeah, one thing I'd like to comment on, the chemical used in the product is warfarin, which is a human drug. And what we found that hogs are really sensitive to the drug, and we lowered the concentration by 80%, um, which means 50 parts per million in the finished product. In rat and mouse baits, the warfarin level is 5 times that amount. And so it's 250 parts per million. And EPA recognize or categorizes it as a category 4 pesticide, which is the least toxic category that they regulate. And that was the only reason we moved forward with the development almost 20 years ago, because we feel confident that when it's used correctly in the right situations, it'll work and it really minimizes non-target exposures. And of course, the bear are different. They're a much larger animal, and we think we can develop something over the next few years that would permit more extensive use in Arkansas if it's approved.
Let me ask you this, where you are using it and have a history, is there a history of using it in bare areas? And what has been the result?
Texas A&M did 22 field sites, and they got 100% kill of all the hogs on each site. And they used it in one bear area, but no bear was seen. It was in western Texas in the mountains. And East Texas has no bears remaining because of human population. So it's not an issue like Arkansas. It's a totally different scenario. And it's been used in Texas for over a year now.
But what I hear you saying is you're really not using it in any bear containing areas.
No, it's approved in Oklahoma also as a restricted use product. And as far as I know, it's not been used in bear areas yet.
Okay, thank you.
Susie, I assume if we do the rulemaking and kind of, even though it'll be for a group of products, it's gonna be obviously tailored towards this product, because this is what's being
Yes,
presented. I assume we have the opportunity if, say, something that we feel a little more comfortable with comes to market to loosen restrictions for that product rather than the whole group.
Yes.
I mean, what are the options?
Yes, we've done that over the years with multiple products or granted waivers, or it didn't necessarily make the specifications go in that category. Just going down the rulemaking path from past history, if you lock in a certain ingredient or product, especially a product name, you tend to have to come back to the table and make constant updates. You don't have to make them as frequently if you can make it or create a category. That's my experience anyway. Again, we've got in-house attorneys now that are extremely, this moves forward, getting that legal language hammered out.
Yes.
Question, this may be of the biologist. Obviously, there is an appliance that dispenses this or contains this. Let's say that we have someone that just goes buys kaput and dumps it out in an area where hogs are located. What would be the impact of that?
That's what we term a dirty applicator, and in most situations, that's gonna result in non-target animals having easy access to that bait, most likely getting sick or dying because of the consumption of that bait. Yeah. That, the device that they designed is specifically designed to only allow access to 4-barrel hogs. And it does a pretty good job at that, except for the exclusion of black bears. And we would certainly recommend that it be included in the registration that somebody has to buy that device before they can purchase the thing.
Buy and use.
And use.
That may be in the label.
That may be in the label.
I think it is.
Is there an option open to us through the plant board to have some test cases? to have these put out where there are no bears, but we know that there are bears in an adjacent county. And even, I don't know how you'd run the test, if you'd put it up a camera monitor to see if bears are coming to it and see how much they're eating and if that's enough to cause them harm. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I don't like a hog either, but I also don't wanna sour the pot.
What, I'm sorry. What would need to happen from our standpoint is a protocol would need to be written. The manufacturer need to be on board with it. They need to bring that protocol back to this board for approval for testing purposes. And then is the manufacturer gonna fund it? Who's gonna fund it? What's the time frame? And when do they report back to y'all? So those are some things to consider. Again, in my opinion, a protocol will need to be written on how this testing is gonna be done and presented to you.
And I would think you want the task force to be able to look at that and recommend it as well.
I didn't know if there's anything through extension or through the university where they could lend a hand in conjunction with y'all, or, I'm sorry. I said, I didn't know if there was an option through using the extension service and the Game and Fish, if there is some kind of test protocol we could come up with. Because it sounds like these really haven't been used in bear areas, and it's a good product and you'd like to be able to use it, but you'd like to also know what the risks are before you approve it.
Becky McPeak is the representative for the extension service for the University of Arkansas. She's actually offered to head some of that research up if that's something that the plant board and the put company is interested in. Yeah. Good. Nothing official, but in our task force meeting, she said that she would be interested in doing that if that's something that would be helpful.
All right, Mr. Dunklin, did the pesticide committee come up with a recommendation?
Yes, they recommended the task force, what they recommended and passed unanimously in the committee. So I'll do my motion back to this board to accept our recommendation to follow these restrictions that are outlined.
Okay, we have,
What county are you in?
we have a motion
There's no bears.
to accept the task force recommendation. That's your motion,
Yep.
okay?
Chairman?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're clear on the motion, so I think what the motion means is the committee, sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
The committee's recommending to the board that the board ask staff to, through the pesticide committee, develop a draft of a rule that would allow the registration of this product under restricted conditions based on the recommendation of the task force. Does that sound right?
Yeah, and that was, I think you said it's gonna take 3 or 4 months plus to go through that rule, make the process. And this ties back into what you said.
It would, but you, to be clear, the draft will not come back to the board till June, and then that'll be the first step in initiating rulemaking. So we'd be looking at, next winter.
Before it.
Be December before we could use it anyway under the restrictions.
Possibly, that time.
Is everyone clear on the motion?
I'd like to make a comment with your question about getting it tested. The doctor that was with Texas A&M said that I guess the people enforcing it did not want to run the test. They wanted individual farmers that they trusted to do it right to run the test. Am I correct about that? That would sound like a way that the task force might be able to develop a test for the bear country, because he said they did not test it all in bear counties or bear territory, but you did have what was it, 20 farmers that participated and that they trusted to do it exactly by the book. And he said most of them did and had good results, and the ones that didn't do a good job didn't have good results, basically it was.
I think the problem to be solved is what I'm gonna call the feeder device. And basically allowing the hogs to get to the feed, but keeping the bears out.
Right.
So that's the problem to be solved. The manufacturer's working on that. I think if y'all go forward as we stand today based on, the task force recommendations. And then in the future, if task force is comfortable that this problem is solved, y'all could even test out, the device yourself. Then we would come back and revisit the rule and the product and loosen it up, for lack of better words.
Just so Dr. Slayton pull this up, I don't know if you can see it, but that's the 23 bear harvest. Can't hardly hold on to it, so it's maybe half of the state that would even qualify for it.
And in the northwest part.
So it kind of gives you an idea, y'all were asking what counties.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're going to possibly work on a draft while concurrently the Feral Hog Task Force is still looking into some studies with this. And as those studies progress, if any become available, we come back to the board and at that time.
Quite possibly,
We assess-
because all we're, as I understand, all we're doing is having y'all draw up a potential label for Arkansas, and y'all will hash that out. We will meet back together again before we approve anything. So.
We'll bring you something in June.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion. Go follow the task force recommendation to begin process of labeling this product kaput. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Now's the time for discussion. You want to have any other than what we've already talked about?
This is Ken Korth. I just have a question, and maybe for Scott or Susie, but as I understand it, so basically, yeah, if you initiate rulemaking, it's gonna be quite a while before this would ever wrap up. So in the meantime, I also understood it sounded like the company is getting or has EPA approval. Would there be unrestricted use allowed in the state in this interim at any point, like if that were to get approved? Or does this stop that possibility?
And Dr. Korth, it's not even labeled in Arkansas right now. You can't get your hands in Arkansas. And so the proposed recommendation would be that it would be restricted to what amounts to about 26 counties under certain conditions.
Yeah, I just didn't know about the timeline if because this is gonna take a while, so, okay, but that makes sense. Thank you.
Federally registered in Arkansas. It is federally registered. It's not registered in Arkansas, so it's not legal to use in Arkansas and will not be legal to use until you all decide on how you want to register.
I need to get this straight. Brandy nor myself can stop a registration. The board has to tell us to not move forward with registration of this. So at some point, that is gonna have to be brought up.
That's fine.
Or I don't know what they're just.
No, all we're doing right now is, if this passes, if this motion passes, you will come to us with a proposed rule, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And then we will decide, yes, we like it, no, we don't, we'd like to make some changes, whatnot. So we have a motion, we have a second, I think we need to vote. All in favor of following the pesticide committee's recommendation of the Feral Hog Task Force recommendation to move forward with proposed rule, to move forward with giving it to Susie group to come up with the rules that we might propose, say aye.
Good job.
All opposed, like sign? Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also, on our committee, we discussed, under other business, we inquired about what the updates on dicamba. I asked Scott to give us an update on what the use of dicamba is this year and the potential for section 18 or 24C label. Scott?
Yes, sir.
On that use it.
If y'all don't mind, as we have this discussion, and we may jump back and forth between me and Susie, so bear with us. So as far as in-crop dicamba use for the upcoming season, the last information I got from EPA was that there is not gonna be a product registered. There are 3 products in motion. the earliest, the first one that was submitted for registration, if it went perfect and went through the 17-month required period, the earliest that could be available is September 25. And then the second product, and I don't remember how this fell with manufacturers, but the second product is about a month behind that, and the third product is about another month back. EPA told us that their registration process is typically taking longer than 17 months because their group that oversees that is shorthanded and underfunded. They also have concerns if these products are registered even in 2025 or 2026, there will be supply problems because the manufacturers aren't building up supplies currently. So, and throughout this process, there had been some discussion on whether a 24C or a Section 18 emergency exemption could be allowed for a end crop product, and EPA advised us that their legal reviewed those two options, and they did not see that they would be approved. Now, just for a real quick update, for people that aren't familiar with the 24C or the 18 option, I'm gonna let Susie come up and explain those to you. But I do want to say I am hearing that there may be a 24C option, but I don't have any details. I don't know how accurate that is. It's just stuff I'm hearing in the background. Y'all are nodding your head. I bet some of y'all are hearing some things too. I don't know what is happening out there. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm gonna let Susie kind of give you an update on what those two exemptions are, and then I'll come back to the policy. Thank you.
Scott, y'all probably hear me use the words 24C and Section 18 a lot, and I know what they mean, but a lot of you do not. I put some bullet points in ready to put this together. This is our internal kind of quick guidance for 24C and Section 18. If you want to really get into the law, I can send you the EPA website. A 24C is a special local needs registration. The registrant submits the registration request to Arkansas. The request is initiated by growers, producers, or university staff. They contact the registrant with a request to pursue registration to meet a special local need. Bullet point number 1, a special local needs registration is designed to alleviate an existing or imminent pest problem when registered pesticides are not sufficiently available. It must be a registered pesticide, adding or expanding a use, method of application, etc. I'd like to stress that second bullet point because this is where I get a lot of questions. It must be a registered pesticide. Tolerances must have been established for the use or crop size. The state lead agency, which is us, we have to contact EPA prior to processing this registration. There seems to be some misinformation that we submit that request and it goes into effect until EPA denies it. We have to call EPA and let them know we are going to do this, and they'll say yay or nay. There's just some misinformation on that. Once we do submit it, if EPA gives us the green light, EPA has 90 days to review it, approve it, or deny it. The state lead agency may issue that registration for up to 5 years. Again, when we get this request, it typically goes to Randy Reynolds. She lets me know, I let Scott know, and then it goes up the chain to Secretary Ward to ultimately approve it. And if Brandy or I see anything wrong with the packet or don't, hey, we think this is good, it meets the standards, or if we don't, she or I or both of us will put something in writing and send it up the chain to Scott. Now for Section 18, it's a state lead agency receives a request from a university scientist, qualified expert, or an entity that could justify the need for the emergency request. The exemption is either an unregistered pesticide, a registered pesticide with no tolerance established for the requested area. The state lead agency, which will be Arkansas, consults with EPA prior to this process. Pesticide registrant must submit letters of support. We also must have a data packet required to support the emergency condition that normally comes from the University of Arkansas. And then EPA must approve prior to use. It's a minimum of about 45-day review time. I'm not going to go into all these other details. I should put some additional information together. Those are the highlights of what those two types of labels are, or special requests.
So for example, if you had, say, an unregistered chemical that might alleviate a problem such as feral hog, you would apply for a Section 18 emergency exemption to be able to use it and run some tests in the state, is that right?
Correct, you have to have a data packet and support from the manufacturer though. That data packet is key. You have to have the data to support it,
To support the emergency condition.
yes.
Okay.
Again, I can send everybody the link to the actual laws on this, if you just feel like reading some law in your spare time, but that's the highlights, and thank you for putting that together.
Thank you.
Y'all have any questions or want to talk more about those options? Thank you. So again, as I stated, today I have no knowledge at all of a product that will be available for in-crop use going forward into this growing season.
I have very limited knowledge on this, but
Okay.
supposedly there is a form of dicamba. It's not the generic that maybe some volatility agents can be added to. It's out there. It's kind of what I've heard has been recommended is for this. But my issue is with all this, I mean, I'm not largely pro dicamba. I know there are issues, but my problem is we've been unable to regulate it so far as enforce the rules that we have. And I'm afraid it's gonna be the Wild West this year if we don't have some semblance of, we either need to add 100 people on staff to go out and enforce it, or we need to have some semblance of control. And to me, this is a way for us to still have some ability to regulate if it's out there. Cause I hate to say it, but it's gonna get sprayed no matter what. If we could have a safer option out there and still have the cutoff dates and everything else, I think people want to follow the law generally, but ag is tough right now.
Product registered for that, for that.
So to your
That is
regard,
my
to your point, I asked Scott in our committee meeting how are you gonna handle this?
Yeah.
Cause any spraying of any type of dicamba is gonna be illegal. And so how are we gonna enforce that to make sure?
Over the top.
Yeah.
That's right. Not, I'm sorry, not on crop, not on crop, on row crop.
So, you know, we do have some things we're gonna implement, but I'm not gonna sit here and tell y'all that we're gonna be able to manage this. It's gonna, potentially, I mean, what we are gonna do is we're gonna certainly increase our outreach efforts, our educational efforts. We're working right now on the possibility, of being able to group email out to all of our licensees. So we can, and we're also gonna work on text blasts, so it will be a form of being able to easily mass communicate out to the registered license holders. We're also working with our department's communications team. We're gonna talk to U of A and see if we can get some public announcements out there and more or less just remind everybody, product is available. It's not in compliance. We're gonna increase some of our ag use sampling and our records inspections. We're gonna focus on the months of May through July where we have quotas that we meet for EPA. We're gonna exceed those quotas. And usually we try to spread those quotas and those sampling out over a longer period, but we're gonna concentrate more on those high use months. And see if that will help with some deterrent. We're gonna do more records dealers inspections after April 15th. And see if we can, use that as a deterrent.
But
And
the
if we
problem is, if somebody's breaking the law, spray it, I don't think they're gonna put it in their records if they spray it. I mean,
but the dealers should have records that they sold it.
Yeah.
Which does not constitute a violation, but it does give you an idea.
To your point about the safer option, has any U of A sweet scientist, pathologist, anybody proven in a trial that Bayer, Syngenta, BASF options are safer options
Then what?
than the generics?
And what do you mean by safer? Because I would
Less
say,
likely to volatile.
Less volatile.
yeah,
I would say that.
they
less
have.
volatile.
I just didn't know if they've ever proved that they are.
I'm not gonna speak on his
There's a lot.
research, but Jason Nordworth did some research, he would have to speak on it.
So, yeah, it does indicate that, the over the top products are less volatile. There's also an additive, what's the term,
Drip reduction agent.
DRA, that they say additionally lowers the volatility. That was introduced the last year or two. But again, you know, there's nothing available, no product registered for use. So any use of it in crop, as of today, is not going to be in compliance, you know, in compliance.
Is there shortage of, or is it just pure non-acceptance of enlist cotton or options?
So it was, all the products were vacated in court. So they're basically.
No, enlist.
But you're talking about enlist.
Right.
Oh, I'm not talking, sorry. Yeah,
Well, it's
that was just my
generally
point
the
to the-
varieties, I mean. I don't got forward. And I-
See, that's, I
I
was
would
doing
list,
cotton
but
too.
there's just, enlist, they're just in one brand of cotton, you
right.
know, Vitagen, and I mean, I've had success with it, but it just hasn't taken off. Like
So it's just kind of
like
not
the
acceptance, not so much
Yeah.
short, yeah.
And some of it is your location. What are your neighbors doing? What, you know, do you have to have a certain technology to protect it from not cotton problems, but soybean?
It's a defensive situation.
Oh, yeah, trust me, a lot of guys in my area have gone X-Flex for defense. Just tired of seeing their traditional beans get rolled up. They're all-
Scott, you visit with your inspectors. I don't know how many inspectors we have.
We have 30.
30 inspectors. To what Nathan is talking about, it's probably is gonna be the Wild West, and it's probably is anticipated being sprayed illegally. When you start getting complaints, or, so we're going to be investigating those complaints.
We will be investigating every complaint we get. We've done that all along. We really don't know what to expect. I mean, it could go either way. Based on my meeting with the inspector and the field supervisors, their best guess is about 80% of the beans being planted are dicamba tolerant.
But is it fair to say that any problem we have this year has nothing to do with the formerly registered product? Because they don't exist.
They're not available.
And I doubt anybody bought up enough when they were legal to buy that didn't use them this year. So any application problem we have this year is an illegal application because the dicamba they're using is not labeled over the top. It's not because they're using a low volatility or off label. Is that right? I mean, we were suspect
I'm gonna
that.
say, I don't know, because we hear all kinds of rumors of people who stockpile old products, new products, and our lab cannot differentiate between the old and new. All they know is dicamba. So if we have to get a sample in certain situations, all we will be able to tell you is it's dicamba. We won't be able to tell you which one, which brand, which type.
Scott, does EPA give you guidance on how to monitor this situation at all?
No.
Okay. Maybe you can field check.
In my opinion, they haven't been much up to us at all.
But we operate under their rules, and we have to operate, enforce these laws. So we can stop it. For example, I think you already said we can stop a spray rig to do an inspection. Take a
We
sample.
can, we can, and you know, throughout the history of dicamba, we've implemented lots of different policies. And I just want to remind everybody that, you know, there was a time we were doing that. We were going out, we were checking rigs in the field, we were stopping, pulling big weed out of fields. And it got very contentious. We had inspectors threatened. We had inspectors ran off of the road. I've been sent drone footage of inspectors in fields doing their job. I mean, people were following and watching these guys with drones. It got to the point, we've had board members vandalized. Their property damaged.
The inspectors' properties were damaged.
Board members.
Board.
And we've had staff sitting in this room harassed on social media, threatened. Female inspectors surrounded by vehicles and pulled off to the side of the road. I mean, this happened. So our inspectors aren't equipped for that. They're not armed, they're not trained in self-defense, they're not made, we're not built for this, we're regulatory. So this situation has potential to get very contentious very quickly. You know, I made the decision and Secretary Ward agreed with me at one point. We transitioned back to a complaint-driven response simply because we were worried about those field staff and their safety. And we were starting to lose inspectors. I mean, we had inspectors saying, you don't pay me for this. And those people are 2 to 3 years in the training process. I mean, when we lose one, it's a setback. And I also want to remind everybody, this is just not all they do. I mean, they do, I've got these bullet points, these are all the jobs they do during the summer months, in addition to pesticide case file work. So it can be a very overwhelming situation. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know what the answer is.
It's very sad.
We respond to the best of our ability, we work these case files in, and as y'all all know, we went through several years in the early days where the plant board, this body was under legal attack constantly. It was sued and deemed unconstitutional twice. So there was a period of time there where we had a lot of case files that we really didn't know what to do with. We had concerns about, you know, we had, most of them were represented by lawyers and they were like, we want a hearing. So there was one period where I was faced with over 100 cases that were demanding hearings. How do y'all have 100 hearings? I mean, y'all meet quarterly and there's always 1 or 2. I mean, that's 2 a week for a year. You can't do that. It's a logistical nightmare. So, and then with the lawsuits and the unconstitutionality, we got backlogged. We got behind on enforcement. And now we find ourselves here with cases still back to 2017 that are unresolved. So it has been, you know, it's been a very, very difficult thing to try to manage. I've made the best decisions I could based on the best information that I had available to me and the resources. One thing I have implemented recently that I'm just gonna go ahead and jump into is I determined a need to clear out some of this backlog. I don't want to go forward into this year with a huge backlog and end up just piling on with newer cases. So I took a look at the years of 2017 through 2020. And I instructed staff to send out settlement offers to these people to settle it for a warning. And we're getting some of them back. Now, this is not a traditional warning letter where we just send a warning letter and be done with it. This is an offer. This is more or less an informal summary. We will probably be bringing this to the pesticide committee in the next quarter for review and probably bring a large batch of these to y'all in June. These things aren't settled until you approve them. So if this board does not agree with this offer to settle these with warnings and clear out up to 2020 or 2021, we're still reviewing 2021. Then just tell us and we'll go back to trying to get settlement offers and civil penalties. My thinking is these things are 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. How do we go back and tell a farmer, oh, by the way, we scheduled your hearing for 2017? Half the inspectors, a lot of the inspectors that may have been a witness for that are not employed here anymore, or they've forgotten. So I just didn't see a lot of options. I visited with Secretary Ward about it. I visited with our legal about it, and we agreed that this was one way to try to clear this out if you all agree. So that is something that I recommend we, again, pesticide committee is gonna be busy between now and June, but it's another thing that I think we have a lot more detailed discussion in committee and come back to y'all on recommendations and some.
Is there the ability, if they're proven bad actors, to have some extra scrutiny on those within the settlement, maybe?
Well, there is, if y'all direct us to do that. Right now, what we're doing is we're just offering to wipe the slate clean and settle these up to 2020, maybe 2021, get ourselves back within a 3 or 4 year time frame, and more or less do a reset. And then pick up our enforcement hard and heavy going forward. We have a constitutional board, we have a good legal team, and it's time to move forward, but I don't see how we can do that without some sort of a reset and some sort of clearing out. And hopefully it will send a message out to the farming community that, you know, we need to start over here. We have to get our relationship built back, because regulatory work, if you're regulating a entity or a segment of industry that does not want to be regulated by you, very difficult. Y'all see how it's been. I mean, we got to the point, and David back there can tell you, we got to the point where every single time our inspectors went to a farm, they basically said, call my lawyer, not talking to you. They would go to get them to sign a notice of inspection, so they may not even be there for a pesticide investigation. They say, I sign anything, call my lawyer. You know, how do we manage this like that? So in conjunction with enforcement and oversight, we also have to have a relationship. We have to have a level of cooperation and a level of respect. One way we have rebuilt some of that through the H2A inspection program. That has been a shining star for us, and it has allowed our inspectors back on farms on good terms and rebuilding some of that relationship with these farmers. I'm hoping going forward, if we do have a heavy season this year, that it will not be as contentious as it was, and we can run this enforcement program. But that's yet to be determined. But that's where I stand on it today. I stand on it, it's mine. And if you guys want us to do something different, tell me.
Well, I guess my frustration has been, I don't feel like the Safin products ever got a fair shake in the state, because you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars difference on an average size farm between spring generic versus the Safin product. And I've told the major chemical companies that, price this stuff too high, make your money on the technology, get the chemical competitive to the generics. It would be the number one, which that's not the issue we're faced with this year. I just know as hard as it's been to enforce, I mean, it's gonna turn some honest men into criminals this year.
These have most of these have always been honest men. It's all honest. Yeah. And some of them have been faced with a situation of bankruptcy or just dire situations. I mean, some of them made these decisions in desperation.
I'll say it's very difficult to farm cotton without an auxin technology.
I believe that the manufacturers can go a long way in helping us. And we've invited them to the meeting. There's some of them online. I don't know if there's anybody in the room, but I encourage y'all right now, here's your opportunity.
Please listen up.
Talk to them. Ask them what their plans are, how they plan on assisting us and the citizens of this state with the management of these products. You know, these are their products.
We've got BASF, Bear Crop, and Syngenta on the line.
Good.
So if anybody has a question.
Mayor Scott, I just want to say this, when that started in the 17s, when you said, right, and that, I mean, it was an absolute train wreck. I know y'all weren't sleeping much then, you know, any of you, so, and we kind of, I think, got through that period, just think about last year, where it was pretty normal, I would say, you know, normal year, so we made extreme progress. I'm with you on erasing that, because I don't think you're ever gonna get anything done on that, and y'all are gonna stay bogged down on stuff that's irrelevant. I think we should go that route, and my number two is probably a loaded question. But do you think in 26 that registered dicamba or registered ways of, folks will come back? Gut feeling, or is that a loaded question?
I would ask the manufacturers that. I would be afraid to speculate on that. On your point, I do want to stress to everybody, prior to 2017, I looked at a 10-year average and we averaged less than 200 complaints a year. In 2017, we got 1,312, 18, 456, 19, 462, 20, 514, 21, 565, 22, 418, 23, it dropped down to 298, and last year it was 226, so it has trended back down. Getting back into the range of what we're actually built for, built to manage. But for all those years, it was double and triple what were made. And you're right, we had inspectors in those days working 7 days a week. They were ground down to a nub. And I also want to add that there's not a single person right here in this room or in this field or right here that's responsible for this. We didn't create this.
Yeah.
We've been caught in the middle of this from the beginning.
Well, I think Mr. Meyer alluded to this earlier, if we could, and I'm just saying, I think this is what you said, if we had a 24, then would it get us to 26 if we're gonna have the product back where you didn't have so much animosity and threatening, and, because this is gonna be a rodeo this year, I promise you, because farmers are barely getting crop loans anyway.
And I don't know that the 24 would help, because from what I'm hearing, there's not that much product available, even if you got a 24, even if you got, even somehow, some way, under the new administration, the registration process gets sped up. I don't know that the manufacturers, and they're here, y'all need to ask them these questions, or they're online. I don't know if there's product available, if by some chance it did get registered, or there was an option for this growing season. So, Susie, who here is here representing each company, and y'all feel free, we asked them to be here to answer these questions, and I hope they're ready to talk to y'all, so.
We have Carrie with BASF, Amanda with Bear Crop Science, and George with Bear Crop Science, and I believe Eric Palmer with Syngenta. So if the board has any questions, Chairman Dunklin. That they should be on the line, we can unmute them, let them talk.
I think the supply question is the number one that should be answered, just in case there is an option that comes available. Are there gonna be supplies available? And if anybody who wants to, Brandy, you're.
They have unmuted, so.
Okay.
All three of them need to answer that, really, each company.
Carrie, BASF, you wanna go first, just because your name's first on my list?
Of course it is. And I just want to apologize for earlier. I thought we were all introducing ourselves. But you are correct. At this point in time, we do not have enough supply to meet the demand. And not just for Arkansas, but for all the states, because we do view this as an industry problem. But looking into the future 2026, we are open to conversations and alleviating what problems we can. Because yes, we are right on board with you. We know it's going to be a rodeo this year.
Amanda or George with Bear?
With regard to the supply, I take it you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. With regard to the supply, we do not have a registered product to use right now. And we do not expect in 2025 to have a registered product over the top. We do not have a non-over-the-top conventional use product that can be used in soybeans and cotton anyway. So from the supply side for 2025, for us, we don't have a product. 2026, we are working very closely with the agencies, with EPA right now, to bring an over-the-top product on the market. And I think the chances are not too bad to have the product on the market 2026. If we do get the registration, we will have the supply for 2026.
Eric, are you?
Yes, ma'am. But Syngenta's sitting in the same boat from a supply standpoint. It takes time when they pulled registrations, takes time to ramp back up and get production. So, at this point, we'd be looking at 26. And I mean, from what I'm told, you've got an 8-month ESA review on top of that 17-month PREA timeline as well. So based on the timelines that my regulatory folks are telling me, it'd be the end of 26, potentially, just based on our submission timeline, if things hold true at the agency.
And ESA is the Endangered Species Act.
Say that again, please.
ESA that he was referring to is the Endangered Species Act.
Thank y'all for your input.
So, again, we are going to increase efforts. We're going to have a presence. We're gonna do our best, but I have to reemphasize, our inspector safety and the concern over their well-being is always gonna be on call. Same with in-house staff, because just because they're in-house and not out in the field, they also got harassed people out.
Well, what we're not thinking about too is the majority of the state's gonna plant dicamba tolerant crops, no question. You said 80%.
They're guessing 80%.
So you're gonna have, now it's gonna flip. So your enlist people are gonna be spraying 2,4-D beside non-2,4-D cotton, like Nathan and I will plant. So this is almost gonna turn around a 180 to be more complaints probably on 2,4-D damage on dicamba crops, sprayed or not sprayed with dicamba, than non-dicamba crops getting sprayed, is my opinion. Don't you think so?
I think so. We got hurt in 2018 by enlist in, actually 3 different counties.
We did too. So it's fixing to flop, and then you're gonna have all these 2,4-D complaints on dicamba tolerant crops, is my opinion. It's gonna double, I guess. And the encouraging thing was that 200 and something complaints last year, there's a high percentage that was generic that was put out. And we've learned as a state to adapt to that and get our complaints back down, even with the high percentage of people using generics. Like Nathan said, it's couple $100,000 difference in price. You're in the worst farm economy we've had since the 80s. We know what's fixing to happen.
Yeah. Well, I wish I had better news. Wish I had more options, but I don't. Our resources are limited. And again, this is regulatory, and we're not law enforcement. We're regulatory. And I don't care what anybody says. I've been doing this a long time. The only way regulatory works is you gotta have some level of cooperation from the industry and the entities that you're regulating. If they decide to bog you down, if they decide to get lawyers and grind you down, well, you see what's happening.
So I'd like to say one more thing. I know this 24C is a long shot, but Texas, Tennessee, Missouri, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Mississippi are all looking to apply for the 24C.
I've heard some in Georgia.
It's the generic DGA formulation with an accompanying volatility reduction agent and drift reduction agent is what the ask is gonna be. I mean, again, my thoughts on it are, it's gonna get sprayed no matter what. And if we could at least have some semblance of regulation with a 24C, to me, that's better than it just being the Wild West.
If somebody's actually gonna spray illegally, label wise, they're gonna be fully illegal. Right?
Yeah.
They're not gonna.
They're not gonna.
We had,
The PRA.
yeah.
So they're looking for a roll your own ingredient.
Yes, that's what the 24Cs in those states, what I understand is gonna be applied as, it's basically a generic with the added safety and drift reduction, so.
Anything else?
I do not. I would like to circle back to the pesticide committee meeting, and I don't know if we talked about the drone discussion yet.
I was gonna ask a question.
Then I'll want to make sure that we wrap up the pesticide committee meeting with some clarity, everybody understanding. So, Mr. Duncan, do you want to circle back to that, or
Yeah.
we can let Susie?
Susie, I'm gonna let Susie. Susie,
We kind of touched on drones just a little bit. Right now, drones are considered an aerial application in the state of Arkansas. So we do have an aerial test, and it's not a standalone aerial test. You have to take aerial with a category. Most people in this room is gonna be ag plant, because that's road crop. So when drones came along, since they are considered air, and there's no special federal testing or federal requirements for drone because they are considered air. When somebody wants to get a license for a drone, if it's a farmer applying to his own property, it's private with pilot authorization. You are taking our aerial applicator test with a category. Now, for the most part, our aerial tests do reference fixed wing, and the University of Arkansas helps us with testing and training. That's what they do. So in this world of drones, a lot more people are taking those tests, and we're getting some complaints and concerns. This is really focusing on airplanes. Right now, everybody keeps asking what EPA is gonna do, what EPA is gonna do. The manufacturer owns the label. So if the manufacturer wants something specific on a label regarding drones, they're gonna have to request it to EPA. EPA can't just say, we want you to put some drone guidelines because the nozzles or the spray setup's not the same. EPA can't just request that on the front end. It's got to come from the manufacturer. So for right now, since we were getting so many questions on the testing, I spoke with Les Bradley with the University of Arkansas, and Dr. Jason Davis, and they were at the pesticide committee meeting, and they may be online today. I met with them, and our recommendation is to start looking into a drone category. Basically, we have an aerial category. We divide it off into manned and unmanned. And that's two different tests moving forward. So it'll be more directed towards drones. We were kind of aiming for the time frame of 2026 because U of A has to develop testing and training for this. I'm also wanting this board's permission to reach out to other states to kind of see if anybody else is doing anything. I don't think they are, but again, I'd like to look into specifics. Now, as the drones evolve, as I've spoken with the University of Arkansas, the test would evolve just like any of our other tests. They can be changed and updated. So that's what the drone category is. It's a simple split off of manned and unmanned is what we're looking into. And if you got any questions, I can answer.
I did have a question that probably relates to this. You gave us the number of farms, 11 are licensed, 2 are pending, 4 are on hold. Those are all commercial farms?
Yes.
So have you given any private tests?
We have, and I apologize, I did not realize I did not have that number when I walked in here today. I can get y'all that at the next pesticide committee meeting. We have, there's a lot of lack of knowledge of what's needed. And the FAA is looking, we're looking, but we do have pilot authorization.
How do you classify between private and commercial?
Commercials for hire, private is for your own personal farm.
But as a farmer that has a person that works for them that I pay,
That's
salary.
into commercial. I just
Does
had this
it-
discussion with our attorneys, Corey, and I don't
Does
know
the
if
word-
Sherry's in the room. That turns it into commercial at that point.
so that turns it into commercial. How is, if I have an operator on a spray rig, that's
It's-
different?
How it was explained to me, and I think Sherry's in the room, FAA comes into play here, and they have to.
Even if they have all the FAA certification,
Correct,
it still is considered commercial in the state of Arkansas.
yes, that's the guidance. Like I said, I had to go to our lawyers on this because the drone document I keep referring to, I pulled it back to start putting some of these questions and answers on there because, I'm getting a lot of gray area, a lot of questions, a lot of people trying to figure out some loopholes, which I don't blame anybody. It's just, we're gonna have to answer on moving forward, but, again, I don't think Sherry's in here, but Sherry and our lead attorney Corey kind of helped me look into some of that, and they had to look into FAA law also. And with the ground rigs, there's not FAA law.
Right.
Did I say that correctly, Corey?
Is that
There you go.
something that could be adjusted or changed in the future some way?
We can look at it.
Just from a standpoint of, you're gonna have a lot of drones that are coming in, like it's a big deal. And I mean, the next 5 years is fixing to be wide open, and there are gonna be people that wanna have those, and they have people that work for them. If they go through all the testing, all the licensing, everything else, they're not necessarily considered commercial.
If
They
it's
are working for a
commercial,
farm.
you have to have a firm and insurance. I'd like to stress, that's where that major difference comes in.
Is it an FAA problem? Is it wording in their regs in the farm.
I'm trying to remember, I don't have that in front of me.
They-
I think that was part of it.
They have something that references commercial versus private. Again, Sherry, she's assigned to our section. She's not in here. She really helped me do the research on this. It does reference commercial versus a private farmer, and then it go into our rules of law. So
I've had multiple people call and ask me about
that's
this,
the
even
number one
sales,
question I'll get.
even salesmen.
I think where the
dealers.
confusion comes in is the FAA. If that guy's paid to fly that drone, he has to have a commercial operator's license for the drone.
But if he's not necessarily paid to fly drone, he's paid to work for me.
When he's flying that drone on your payroll, in their view,
Right.
he's getting paid.
You got lunch, by the way, I think, since your last.
Yeah.
Sammy, you
And
wanna
it's
say?
things, as I come back to the pesticide committee, I can get some more of the FAA law and line it out for y'all. Like I said, this is, I'm learning daily on this. Again, I can't
It's
think
good
of
to know.
lawyers.
We need to all know
Yeah,
how this
that's
works.
exactly right. If I remember correctly, we discussed this a little over a year ago. And we felt like that 23%, that number, I think that number is what was told, were licensed or recognized or acknowledged as a percentage of the ones that were actually flying. Is that,
I don't
We didn't have
know.
any tracking numbers last year. We were kind of guessing because this is the first year we're actually tracking equipment by type. So this
That
is
may
the
have
first
been
year.
what the gentleman who spoke to us about.
Yeah.
That's
So-
right, yeah.
so I guess where I'm going is, we've been discussing and we've known this is going on for over a year. And I understand there's nothing we can do with the FAA. I mean, but I don't want us to be the bottleneck, because the numbers you gave, I wouldn't be surprised if there's that many drones flying in Chico County. So they're out there. We need something that works and something that's safe. But, you know, the university may take it and run with it for 2 years before they come back to us with something. I want us to be the lead to try to make this happen efficiently, safely, and as Scotty said, that the industry is happy with.
The goal is to have this in effect for 2026, to have the testing and training ready to go in the fall. Again, we got to go through rulemaking. The governor's office, legislature approval. That's the goal when I was talking to the University of Arkansas. They felt like they could get something in place by then.
Well, I don't think the legislature is gonna be a holdup, because I think they're getting as many calls as we are.
Yes.
So,
And I get a lot of calls complaining about the test, how hard it is, and especially people venturing into the aerial world. So, and this is for ag use. I like to stress this. This is not for ornamental turf or golf courses. This is for ag use.
Suzie, is that an online test or is that an in-person test?
Yeah, you can do both, online or in person. We offer both. And then there's also an additional testing that a lot of people don't know about called the custom test. That's if you're gonna be putting 2,4-D out. That test is significantly harder. I should give everybody heads up. It is significantly harder than the basic aerial test with category. But that's just specifically for 2,4-D.
Yes.
So are these categories between drone and aircraft, or manned aircraft and unmanned, are there also the subcategories like aquatic, ornamental, all?
Yes, yes, sir.
In addition to that
Yes,
as well?
yes. And people can take the test as many times as they want.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanna make sure we wrap up the pesticide committee report, everybody on the same page. Do you mind, Mr. Dunlap?
Yes, sir, you go ahead.
Recap?
You can have all you want.
Let me get my head right. So we're gonna go back and through pesticide committee meeting or meetings between now and June, we're going to develop a rule draft where we clear up the language in the current one today that we recently found. We're probably going to develop some restricted use language for registering kaput. And then we're going to develop two aerial subcategories, one man, one unmanned. And we're going to flesh out the details of each of those in committee. And then we're going to also review the 17 through 20, possibly 21 backlog of pesticide cases that we're offering to sell for warnings. And then we're gonna come back to this board in June with all this business to review.
And these, just so everybody is understanding and I'm understanding, these that you're reviewing, these are ones that have not been completed, not been put out with an attorney for collection. These are ones that are still pending in that process.
Correct. They've not been through this board for final approval. There are several that offered to settle and we've resolved in there and so on and so forth, but these are the remainder that are unresolved.
Not to add to your extensive list of work. But in your offer of settlement, is there something that has a little more bite to it that says, fine, you're getting a warning this time. But if something of a similar nature shows up, we're not treating it as a first offense, we're treating it as a third offense.
By our EPA agreement and our enforcement policy, that's a 3-year cycle. I hate to use the word probation, but that's what probably most people understand. When a person is found in violation, they are a 3-year, and again, I hate to use this word, but it's more or less a 3-year probation. If you are found in violation of the same violation within 3 years, it goes to second level or third and fourth. Since these are so old, we can't really do that with these, which is another reason why I would like to get caught up in more of a current. So basically, these are just warnings. The case is settled, it's over.
Okay.
Scott, I've got a question without taking too much time. Didn't we, a few years ago, offer a deeply discounted settlement and cleared up a lot of
We
that?
did, yes.
But I guess there were people thinking it was an admission of guilt to accept
There's been a
letter that
lot of
wouldn't-
concerns with that, and a lot of them have, some of them were not represented by attorneys, and they were willing to come and settle with it, do informal hearings.
Right.
Agree.
That's my,
Some that were represented by attorneys agreed to settle, and then some were holding out and were not.
that's the way I remembered it too.
We had an issue here with our legal team where, some of the attorneys that were working with me left, and there was one here where there wasn't a lot of communication between our legal and their legal. And, we just got to this point where we had this backlog and, we just had to make a decision. So, very good. This was it, and I hope, again, I own it. It's mine, and for good or bad, and if it all turns out to be the wrong decision, I accept full responsibility.
All right, that's it for our pesticide. Anything else?
What is the final decision on the 24C? Say these states are starting to get exemptions on 24C. On this, I mean,
That's an EPA decision.
yes.
Yeah.
But we have to apply, right?
Well,
It's done through the department, but it is done typically by an entity within the state. That's correct. If I'm wrong, so it usually comes out of the U of A system, does it not? Or from,
Says in her handout, it says
24C.
initiated by growers, producers, or university staff by contacting the registrant. So the registrant has to ask for the 24C, correct?
and Brady, you can chime in, 'cause- so this is her program, she's pretty
Yeah.
much an expert at this now.
So Bear and Cinderella, and they all have to say, we want this changed.
Question?
Yes,
Okay, that's one.
yes,
Scott, did you not say, or Susie, you said that a 24C has to be for a registered product, registered for that use?
Yes,
So
No,
you can't,
there would be a tolerance for that.
she used the term, it has to be a registered
It
product.
would be, it would not be an unregistered product, it would be a fairly registered product, but they don't have to be registered in our state.
Right, what I'm saying though is, but if the registrants do not have a federally registered dicamba or in crop, then they can't be a 24C, am I right?
so if I'm hearing right, I think the workaround is a registered product that is not labeled for in-crop use, but by adding.
Okay.
Because you wouldn't need a 24C if it was already registered for the
Right.
uses you want. I mean, on any
It's
chemical.
not use on the label, but that active ingredient, it has a tolerance for that crop. That in-crop use could be added to a level through a
24C.
Yes, correct.
Or either way with the section 18, right? That would be much more higher.
Yeah, and the section 18 does require that data packet, and that typically comes from the University of Arkansas, which is research. I'm just stressing that, we look for that data packet.
And did you also say that EPA has to approve the 24C? And Scott, did you say they said they were probably not going to?
Yes, they told us that they probably, this was in November.
Right.
They told us that.
But this isn't in our court. This is up to the record.
This is up to the registrant and up to EPA.
So we don't need to take a vote on it either way.
No, not this board, no.
Anything else on pesticide? Thanks.
So you want me to, like to make a motion to accept the minutes from our March 10th meeting?
You have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of their March 10th meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bureau Standards report. Mr. Nick.
Morning. Good morning. Bureau Standards Committee met on February 13, 2025, via Zoom only. The staff presented 37 civil penalties to the committee for review and recommendation to the board. You will see in front of you attachment one, there are 4 tables. And these tables are broken down on the basis of the nature of violation. Table 1 lists 37 violations for expired or no detail. Of these 37, 32 are first offenses, 3 second offense, 1 third offense, and 1 fourth offense. Table 2 has 9 violations for water contamination in the fuel. Of these 9, 8 were first offenses and 1 second offense. Table 3 has just 1 violation for not meeting the flash point. And that happens to be a first offense. And in table 4, we issued 1 warning letter to the district service agency for failing to properly affix approved decal and or security seals on the calibration mechanism. The committee voted to present the 47 civil penalty actions to the planning board for approval. There are any questions, I'll be glad to answer. If not,
Do we have a motion to approve those?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the Bureau of Standards recommendation to approve. Yes.
Does anyone need to review and see if they need to abstain from anyone in the year? The moment, that's fine.
Yeah. We have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation of Bureau of Standards to, on these 47 civil penalties and warnings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Thank you.
no other business was discussed in the meeting, and finally, I would like a motion to accept the minutes from the February 13 Bureau Standards Committee.
Have a motion?
Second.
And a second that we accept the February 13 meeting minutes of the Bureau of Standards. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Right there for, thank you. Mr. Sam?
Okay, got 2 meetings of, the committee, first being on, November the 12th, and I'll just go through the bullet points quickly, and then, like I said, we accepted the minutes, reviewed and accepted the minutes of July the 9th, and then we, Melissa Carey with Landmark PLLC went over the financials, and then Regina Coleman gave us an update on collections and the CD rates and interest and motions to accept those, and grower discussion. about, sweep account CDs and motion to update the, reporting, verifying reporting, and that was, and Chairman Hensley Vice Chairman Hensley gave a report on the Personnel Committee. Motion was made to approve the employee incentive packages when unopposed. And then, on February 26th, I apologize for missing that meeting, and I will, go over it in the points, and then I'm gonna ask Regina to comment on the, Delta invoice that we'll need to approve or anything else, and the financial information in there, statements of expense and the, for the foundation and the invoices, if you'd like to, look at that in advance. And, we had the meeting called to order, and, projected cash flow that was approved, discussed the mapping programs, and then, the board, or the committee recommended, a $1 rebate for the 24 crop, and it went unopposed, and suggested a $3 per acre assessment as well, was unopposed. And then, the financial statements were presented, and the Delta invoice was presented and discussed and was approved. And, so would you comment on the financials or the Delta invoice?
February meeting, we discussed the new mapping program and bilingual program updates. The board did approve for us to move forward with that. As part of the program, there's bilingual program and the mapping program, we will have those updated on our website so that the growers will be able to log in and look at maps, look at their field information, do their reporting online, and this year you will also be able to see their verification online. We're hoping that this will be a step forward to help the growers, but does not have to chase you down like we did in the past. You will have that option to do your reporting online. Our field staff will still be available. We'll still come visit if we need to, but we do realize that y'all have a lot going on too, so we hope that we make it easier for y'all.
Miss Linda's on it. She's already texted me twice since the meeting started, so.
Chase you down.
Yeah, she'll find me.
You'll find it. You know, someone said one time if they got lost, they just wanted to call Bo Weevil because we would track you down. And see where to find you. Also, we did discuss, the grower rebate for 2024 acres. We usually do $1 and so $1 per acre, and that was discussed again this year. For us to move forward, I think we need a motion approval from the board to be able to do so.
I'll ask for that motion when we're all of it together. So that'd be fine. I mean,
if you're done, that's.
no,
Not through.
no, we just let her get through. That's what I was saying. They
We
got
also
through.
the $3 per acre assessment, for this year as well, and so we will need a motion to, move forward on that. On the Delta invoice, do you just want to do everything at one time?
Yeah, well, go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, on the Delta invoice, I believe you did have a copy of that, in your packet. So this year, we had more acres, but it cost less. And that's because what we did, what I tried to do is put people in place. Like they had one zone that they were working in, I moved them to work in the Delta zone as well, instead of hiring extra people, and it did work out well. So, our direct expenses, and there's an itemized statement if you want to look at that, but the direct expenses were $67,147. and the overhead expenses were $159,063 for a total of $226,210. And like I said, it was, we had more acres, and spent less money. You also have a comparison in the packet, and if you look at 23 versus 24, in 23, we spent 171,000 for the Delta, and this past year, 159,000, and that was in our overhead and then the direct. Well, the total, if you look at the total, it was down to 242 to 226. We were pleased with that. We also did the projected cash flow. As we all know, acres are gonna be down this year, and so I set the projected cash flow at around, I started at 550,000. After talking to more farmers, put it down to 500,000. I don't know that we'll even make 500,000 for this year in Arkansas. We should be able to operate under $2 for the 2025 year. We did discuss the National Boll Weevil Protection Fund voluntary assessment for 25 year. And the board decided that we would participate in that again, and it is at a quarter an acre. So that is in the budget as well. As far as the financials, for the end of the year, we ended the year at 4.2 in cash, and part of that is in our CDs, and just a little clarification, because I have been asked about why we have the CDs. We keep a 2-year operating in reserves so that, obviously, so that we could operate when we have short years and then move into a big year. We have that reserve, but we also have that in case there was a weevil outbreak. We need to be able to react immediately. We don't need to wait till we can borrow money, get funds appropriated or whatever. So we keep that reserve. We're very fortunate, as everybody knows, interest rate was great. So our CDs did very well. We put, for the growers rebate, we put that into a short-term CD as well. It managed very well. We ended the year with I think it was 155,000 interest income that we had, and mainly because interest rates were so good. We'll see what happens with that. And that pretty much ends it. Also, I would like to say, I have to brag on this. We came $40,000 under budget.
Very good.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Regina.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the $1 an acre rebate for the 24 crop. And then the recommendation for a $3 per acre charge for 2025. And while we're at it, I'll just put these all in one motion if nobody objects to approve the Delta invoice as well. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the $1 an acre rebate, the $3 an acre charge for 2025, and the Delta invoice for $226,210.37. All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign?
Reynolds, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the 2 meetings, the November meeting and the February meeting.
Very good. We have a motion and a
Second.
All in favor of approving the 2 minutes of the boll weevil eradication, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
I'd also like to compliment Regina on the way she runs this program, her efficiency and her staff's efficiency. And I'm just amazed at every time we meet, it just seems to go really well, and she's on it, they're on it, I'd say.
Thank you.
They do a great job. I'll second that.
If you are looking at what I'm looking at, we're down to other business. I think we've discussed a lot today. Is there anything else that, yes, sir?
Scott, I know y'all do a good job, but and you probably already do this, so the board doesn't need to take any action, but I hope you're looking at the security of your staff as we look forward to summer. And I, for one, would be fully supportive of whatever needs to change so that as they do address these issues, you feel like you and the board are doing what they can to ensure our security, ensure their security as they go into the field.
Thank you. Is there anything else? Yes.
Well, I do have an announcement. I'm decided to retire. So effective July 1, I'm gonna hang it up and turn the page and move on to the next thing for me and my wife. It's been an honor and a pleasure working with y'all and administering this board. I've always had a good relationship with all the board members in the past. And as I do with all y'all, I appreciate your service. I could sit here all day long and talk about this staff. They are the best group of people I've ever worked with. I assure you, the programs that y'all oversee are going to be left in very good hands. I will be here through June. I will see through the business we talked about today to the June meeting, if y'all will schedule it before the 19th of June.
We will.
I meant what I said about, you know, the ownership of every decision I've ever made. I've been through dicamba, COVID, lawsuits. It's been a lot. It's been exhausting. But I tried to make the best decision I could with the resources and the information I had, and right or wrong, again, you know, they've been my decisions and I stand by them. I hope I've satisfactorily administered this board for y'all. I hope you've been happy with my work and the staff. I plan to continue that all the way through June. I spoke to Secretary Ward last week and informed him. And, you know, as far as a replacement goes, there hasn't been any discussion yet. It's just too early. So I don't know what to tell you, what that looks like, but that will develop over the next couple of months. And even in my, you know, July 1 will be 31 and a half years and 6 years of directing. And I'll be 60 in August. So it's a good time for me to do something different. That's my decision, and I'll be seeing all y'all in the meantime. And you have my number, feel free to call me, and even when I'm gone, I'm gonna leave my number with a few people if anybody needs to talk to me. I certainly want to see these programs continue successfully. And I want to see the department and the agency and this board be successful. That's that.
Scott, I think you wasted a lot of words there saying that you were gonna be sure and follow up and do all this stuff, because in my experience with you, that goes without saying, because you know, you're Scott Braid.
Thank you.
And I hate to hear that, but I'm happy for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I assure you, we will schedule the meeting for June 19th.
Please do.
So that we may roast you, if that's the proper term.
Yeah, just whatever. I'm gonna miss y'all, and this staff, I'm gonna miss it, I know. I'm having a little anxiety and jitters about it, but it is the right thing, and sometimes, you know, y'all know this, you know, life is like a book, you know, you go from chapter to chapter to chapter, and you just can't get stuck in one. You gotta turn the page, and you gotta flow through it, and it's just that time for me, so this is where I am. I appreciate all of you. I'll still be around, and I might still be involved in agriculture. Y'all won't see the last of me June 19th, I'm sure. Good enough. Thank you.
So if everyone would look at their calendar, is there any other business? Who wants to follow that up? Is there a calendar, is there a date? I'm sort of looking. Maybe that 10th, does that work for everyone? No?
I'm out of town.
Out of town. Anybody have another proposed date that works?
Anytime during the first week. How long are you gonna be out of town?
I'm out that whole week of the 10th.
So the 3rd, 4th? Anybody have a preference on the day of the week?
3rd or the 5th work.
3rd or 5th?
I like fifth better than the third.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. How about June 5th? Look at June 5th, please. I see no conflict on mine, but. No problems with that? All right, let's set it for June the 5th,
9:30.
9:30. Did someone make a motion
Oh, my day.
to adjourn? Very good. And a second?
Second.
All right. Thank you, adjourn.
Recording stopped.